do we really have to? Do I really have to? Do I really have to wear high heels to feel confident on the red carpet? Do I really have to stand on the stage where I feel like I want to faint? Do I really have to feel anxious when public speaking and pretend that I'm not? Or maybe I can do something about it. Let me try. Power pause. This question, do you really have to? Do I really have to save me? It saved me from depression, from anxiety, and from lots of suffering. But before I tell you about it, I would like to ask you a question. How many of you here have a life purpose? If you could clap your hands, because I can't see you. Yes, there are 550 people probably here. And how many of you have ever felt like you had no clue what to do with your life? Maybe you... Exactly. So for me, it's more or less a permanent state. I'm 37 years old, and I still don't know what I want to do when I grow up. And it would be funny if it weren't so tragic in the past. Because believing in these three lies, that I really, really have to have a life purpose, that everybody had one, and that if they hadn't figured it out, they were a failure. Therefore, I was a failure. Made me chase another success, another relationship, another diploma, another dangerous adventure. But deep inside, this question remained, and I felt very empty. And I numbed it. I numbed it with more work, with toxic relationships, with cigarettes, with alcohol, and what's worse, with drugs. We live in an achievement culture where being busy, where planning, and working hard toward a specific goal is praised. And not knowing, maybe reflecting on life, being unemployed is something embarrassing, is on the margin of this society. And it's a secret. For a long time, this goal, this purpose, for me, was a happy family and work in an international organization. At the age of 37, my mom was a mother of two. And she was about to move to a dreamlike prairie house with her beloved husband, my father, with whom in 5 days they're going to celebrate the 38th anniversary. Well, my life turned out completely differently. I had it planned, though, to fulfill this dream because I wanted to be happy. So I married my high school sweetheart. I graduated with 3 diplomas. I studied in France and Belgium, and I worked for the 3 European institutions. I had a very comfortable life. I lived in a loft. I drove a golden Mini Morris. I threw parties and dinners with oysters and wine until dawn. I had plenty of friends, and I felt unhappy and guilty because I had no reason to feel unhappy. When my friends started to have children, I started seeing a shrink. I was diagnosed with mild depression, and I was offered drugs, which I refused. Instead, I decided to divorce that life, and I hit the road. When I told my father, he looked at me completely perplexed and petrified. He said, "You 31 years old, single, what are you going to do?" And I said, "I don't know." Have you ever felt that lump in your throat? Like you can't speak without crying about serious things, or even normal things, or this heavy load on your chest that you can't breathe. Maybe you would wake up already with this racing heart and this rumbling thought in your head, like, what is my life purpose? What's the future holding for me? What should I do? Maybe you would lit a cigarette like I did at 6 o'clock in the morning to try to calm down. Well, that was my state of mind for another 3 years, at least. But I made my dreams come true. This time, I lived on a paradise island. Ocean was my office. Every day, I would dive with turtles, blue-spotted rays, whale sharks. I would be barefoot all day. From my terrace, there was a view of an evergreen jungle. I had coconuts for breakfast, a loving, gorgeous German boyfriend at my side. Bum in the sand, not a worry in the world. But guess what? I was depressed because I knew that this dream was created by my insane mind. Deep inside, I knew that. And that it was unsustainable. And that in the end, I didn't know what I wanted to do in the future. So it ended. I got sick, went back home. It was -20, middle of the winter. The boyfriend didn't follow. I was sitting on my parents' couch. They called me Bamboncino. I was 33 years old. They actually had some sense of humor. I didn't. And it was a moment when I felt like mental, physical, and social wreck. But I had nothing to do. I had no job. I had no idea what to do, and I was weak. And so the only thing I could do, I was sitting on my meditation cushion, and I finally started to listen. What was going on in my head? And I heard this voice. It was really loud. It was almost screaming. And it said, "You're such a loser. You ruined everything. Why can't you just be like normal people?" The same voice also told me that I was old, like every 15 minutes, and that I was single, and I would probably remain single for the rest of my life, and that also I had a mortgage in Swiss franc with my ex-husband, who was living somewhere in Colombia. So basically I realized that I was my worst enemy, that hell was real. It existed in my head. And I also realized that I had to do something with it. So what I did, I started following my heart. But following my heart did not look like a dream. Because following my heart was courageous. My heart knew that I needed to get humble, not another success at work. My heart knew that I needed to get healthy, not to make a fortune. And my heart knew that I needed to get real, that I needed to love myself, respect myself, and not another relationship. So I hated it. I was guided to less prestigious jobs, less fancy also. The only thing I could do basically was translating. That was the only thing I could do, sobbing on my parents' couch. I asked for a job and I received a book to translate. The edition house paid me peanuts. But what I earned with that book was more than I could have ever imagined. Because I not only translated that book, I lived by that book. It was a book about Kundalini yoga and meditation. I went to a Kundalini yoga class because I wanted to translate the word neck lock. I asked my teacher, what is Kundalini yoga? And he looked at me and he said, sit on the mat and try it. So I did. I did my first breathing exercise. And for the first time, I didn't think about the future. I didn't think about the past. I was in the moment. I felt alive. So a couple of years later, I became a yoga instructor, not because it's fancy and I look sexy in my pants. Maybe I do. But it's because I'm really committed to this, because it helped me. It made me peaceful. It made me more peaceful. It helped me with all my addictions. Maybe not all, but most of them. And it made me healthy. It made my relationships more healthy, and especially the relationship that I have with myself. Later, when I could actually talk with a person without crying for an hour, I started teaching. And I started teaching languages, which was not my dream job at all. My mom is a teacher. I never wanted to be a teacher. But I loved it. And for a year, I would just teach languages. And after, I got an offer to go to Myanmar to teach there, to teach groups of people. And I took it. It was really poorly paid. I lived in my office. I had no windows. It was really not a dream job, nothing I would take 10 years ago. But this job gave me, first of all, an opportunity to find something that I really loved, where I found, when I really was in my element. And also it gave me an opportunity to meditate and learn from the best. So I really don't know what I want to do in the future. And in this January, I again had this moment where I didn't know what to do, because I came back from Myanmar and the contract ended, and the chapter was open. But this time, I had a different attitude. So I really don't know what my life purpose is. But I allow myself this time not to know. I also stopped chasing my dreams, because my dreams are rarely mine. They belong to this fearful mind, this insane mind, or to the achievement culture, or to my society, or to my family, but it doesn't mean that they make me happy, healthy, and peaceful. And it doesn't also mean that I don't feel anxious or depressed. Anxiety and depression come to me like weather. Sometimes it's a tsunami, sometimes it's a morning breeze. But I have a practice that I would like to share with you. And maybe it will help you. Maybe you can share it with other people and it will help them. And this practice consists of 3 sentences. May you be healthy. May you be peaceful. May you be loved. And you may ask me how in the world these 3 sentences are going to keep that anxiety at bay. Well, first of all, I don't know how it works, but it does. There's plenty of research, scientific research done on that. Loving kindness, you can check this out. But what I know about anxiety is that it's not about to stop it. Anxiety is like a crying child. It cannot be, you cannot scold it, you cannot ignore it, and you cannot numb it with alcohol, work, or arguments. It needs to be heard. It needs to be embraced. And it needs to be soothed with your own calming voice. But you really don't have to. Trust me. Try it.